Hello and welcome to Post, the channel where we discuss all things hockey and all teams. We're pretty much the halfway point through the conference finals, so we're here to talk about those series just a little bit more in detail. So let's start with Pittsburgh and Ottawa, since Pittsburgh's your favorite team. Everybody knows this if they're a fan of the channel. So you've obviously watched more of this series in more detail than I have, so I'm just going to pass this off to you right away. What's your thoughts on this series so far? Because currently Ottawa is ahead 2-1.
Well, going into it, I didn't think it was going to be an easy series by any means. I'm sure there's some that looked at it and said, well, it's the Senators, Pittsburgh should roll all over them. Well, the Senators beat some good teams to get to where they are. You don't get to the Eastern Conference Final on a fluke. You have to be a solid club, and Ottawa's a solid club. And a lot of it is due to Guy Boucher and his coaching ability.
Yeah.
He has all those guys bought in. We got Pajot, we got Mathot, we got Stone. I mean, all of them are just dynamite right now for the Senators. And they're playing as if every game is their last game. They're going full out on the system that Boucher wants them to play. They're not playing wide open hockey and, possibly giving up 2-on-1s, pinching ahead of the play, that sort of thing. They're playing a very structured style, and everybody's buying into that style.
Yeah, it's a very opportunistic kind of
there's
style.
Nobody out of place. Now, I want to purposely concentrate on Game 3 because everybody's talking about Game 3, that the game Pittsburgh single-handedly lost in the first period alone. Instantly, what you can say to summarize it, one team showed up to play, one team did not show up to play. It reminded me of Game 6 when Pittsburgh was in the series with Washington. Washington dominated Game 6. Pittsburgh did not show up for that game whatsoever, but then they rebounded in Game 7 and they eliminated the Capitals. I don't fault Fleury to the full extent from that game, Game 3. I mean, that wraparound goal, I didn't really like that. The other goal where he should have been really hugging the post, I didn't like that. But the team in front of him really didn't give him any support. They didn't show up. And I was really surprised that Sullivan didn't call the timeout after the third goal.
Yeah, actually, I thought that too.
That really bothered me. And even though that they would have been down 3-0, if any team could potentially come back and tie that game, it would have been the Penguins. They do have a lot of offensive power. I mean, it's very noticeable with their depth. They could have perhaps salvaged that game, but he didn't call a timeout, and moments later, it was 4-0. He still didn't call a timeout, and I was really surprised by that. And something else I was surprised of, he started double shifting Crosby fairly often, trying to get something going. I said, okay, well, he's trying something. But I was actually surprised he didn't really kind of change the lines around on the fly, because the fourth line for the Pens were the most noticeable all night. With Wilson, Cullen, these guys were really rocking it for them. And I really thought he would have elevated them and perhaps put Wilson on Crosby's line or Malkin's line to try to really get something going, because Wilson was really engaged from the drop of the puck, throwing the body around, that sort of thing. But, Pittsburgh is the Stanley Cup champions. They're still in this thing. They really are. And last year they went all the way. And they have 90% of that team still intact. They know what it takes to win. So why in the hell did they show up in Game 3 basically unprepared? It's as if they were still in Pittsburgh mentally, but their bodies were in Ottawa.
Yeah,
it made no sense. And as a diehard Penguins fan, it really pissed me off because the lack of effort was just unbelievable.
I don't think anyone could have predicted that Ottawa would have scored 4 goals in the first period.
It was pathetic. That's the only word for it. Pathetic. The reigning defending Stanley Cup champions show up in Game 3 and put in a pathetic effort like that. I almost wish they were shut out. 5-0 to prove a point, because it was so pathetic. So I could have put in more effort than that if they had have got me some gear, put me out on the ice. I would have went after somebody.
I've been watching Cullen play. Yeah. I thought he's had a really good playoff
and he's 40 years old.
He's 40 years old.
People.
He's been one of their best players.
40 years old.
Yeah.
And to me, in the playoffs for the Penguins, he's probably one of the best, most consistent they have in their lineup, and he's 40 years old. And he had some very harsh words for the team after that loss, and he didn't sugarcoat it. His exact quote was, "We played like shit." That was his exact quote. And he apparently said more to the rest of the team kind of outside of the media. And apparently the word is he was very harsh, very analytical of everybody's game in Game 3, and nobody could be singled out on Pittsburgh as having a good game, minus Cullen and Wilson. To me, they were the two standouts.
So when a guy like that, 40 years old, he's got, 3 Stanley Cups? Or 2? He has at least 2 Stanley Cups, I think. I think he won with Carolina. And
he won with Carolina and last year Pittsburgh.
So when a guy like that stands up and talks, you listen.
You listen, yeah, because he has more years experience than anyone else on that team. The next closest guy would be Chris Kunitz. He's got 3 Stanley Cups.
Yeah.
But Cullen's older than him, has more games under his belt, more experience, that sort of thing. He stands up and he's analyzing your play and saying, you know what, boys, we're not good enough. I mean, you have to listen to that and kind of go with it and build off it. So the other question now is, who does Pittsburgh start in Game 4?
I was just about to ask you 2 questions. Question number 1, does Pittsburgh bounce back successfully and win the next game?
Yep.
They do.
Okay. I honestly think if any team bounces back, it's them. I mean, you look at the Washington series, they sucked in Game 6. They didn't even show up for Game 6. Then in Game 7, they were stellar.
So the game tonight, you think they're going to win?
I wouldn't put money on it because I'm not a betting guy and I don't have money to play with. But in my heart, it tells me that Pittsburgh ties up the series tonight going back to Pittsburgh.
All right, so question number 2, which you've kind of already said, who starts in net for the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight?
After the game, I said they 100% should start Murray, not because Fleury played bad, but because it would send a message to the team that we have to be better. And Fleury's such a team guy, I think it would affect the team knowing that he's on the bench because of their shitty play.
That's an interesting
And I think it would
perspective.
give them a little momentum. But now that I've thought about it even more, Fleury is the reason why this team is where they are. That's how good he was. He deserves to go back in net. It's his to lose.
I completely agree. And I think
So
that's
now
the popular
I think
opinion.
Yeah, it should be Fleury now.
Yeah, I think we will see Fleury tonight, but if we do see Murray, I mean, Murray's an amazing goalie. I don't think it's, as a team perspective, it's not going to be any less of a performer. He'll be fine, but it'll be dynamically like how will the team react if Murray?
Man,
goes
playing
in there.
that back in my mind, I think I was yelling.
Were you?
I think I got kind of riled up when I was yelling. When I was talking about Cullen. And
That's
stuff.
okay. You're allowed to yell. This is your favorite
I'm
team.
heated.
You can yell as much as you want.
Yeah, well, it was a pathetic effort in Game 3. Like, come on. That's horrible. You're the Stanley Cup champions, come out like that. What a joke. There's no other way to put it.
We'll leave that there. We'll discuss this later. We're going to be live streaming later tonight, so we'll discuss that a little bit more because the game's going to be on in the background.
Yep.
All right, now let's jump over to the Anaheim Nashville series. So I know you haven't watched a whole lot of this, or not in comparison to the Pittsburgh Ottawa series.
I don't analyze it as in depth.
Yeah.
No.
I've watched this more than the Pittsburgh series just because I've been having so much fun watching Nashville. And, last night Nashville came back in the last 10 minutes of the game. They scored their final tying goal in the last minute of the game to send it to overtime. And Anaheim scored in overtime to tie the series at 2. What a crazy game. What a crazy series. I mean, Nashville was this close to going up 3-1 on Anaheim.
Yep.
And if that had have happened, I think Nashville would have closed it out.
Guaranteed.
I don't know if Anaheim could have come back from that.
Guaranteed. If Nashville had won in overtime, that would have been the nail in the coffin to Anaheim, in my opinion, if Nashville had won it.
And you said this earlier to me as we were walking. You think that this is going 7?
I really think it's going 7. This is insanely high energy, entertaining hockey. And it's just so back and forth, teams exchanging chances, that sort of thing. I really think it's going to go the full 7.
Yeah. I was kind of looking into a few details and just actually noticing some of this while I'm watching the games. Some positive, some negative in for Nashville. Arvidsson has been really great. Forsberg has been dynamite. I thought Pekka Rinne his rebound control hasn't been that great. He's been letting out some pretty juicy rebounds. Other than that, he's looked absolutely phenomenal. Pekka Rinne is playing the best hockey he's ever played in his life. And Nashville's face-off woes are coming back to bite them a little bit. They're not great in the face-off circle compared to Anaheim. And it showed, I don't know if it was last game or the game before when Nashville was in the offensive zone, in Anaheim zone, near the end of the game, and Anaheim was winning every single face-off and icing the puck. And they knew that they were so confident that they were going to win the face-off, they just kept icing the puck.
Right.
And I mean, face-offs are a huge part of the game, and admittedly, Nashville's face-offs have gotten better. Specifically, last night's game, they were a lot better in the face-off circle. But I think it's something that they need to continue to improve on, because if they make it to the finals, they're going to have to go up against Pittsburgh, and Ottawa. Pittsburgh's a very good face-off team themselves.
Well,
so.
apparently Turris has figured out how to beat Crosby in the face-offs, right? Turris is really starting to piss off Crosby with the way he's taking the draws and purposely sticking his skate out. I'm the type of guy I'd say, you know what? You want to stick your skate in there? You're going to pay for it. And I'm going to nail you with the backhand on your skate every single time.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. And again, like Anaheim has been playing really well. They've shown perseverance in every single series they've been in. They've fought back so many times and won games. And they didn't fight back last night. They had the lead, but they showed perseverance in closing it out and doing what needed to be done by winning in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
And Gibson has played outstanding. He's, I would say, one of the most underrated goalies in the league. He doesn't get enough credit, and he's been really, really good so far this series. Even though they lost 2 games, he's been really good. So I can't say enough good things about him. And Cam Fowler coming back and on the backhand is a huge bump in morale. We have Corey Perry, who scored, I think, 3 game-winning goals, and 2 of them have been in overtime. So, I mean, that's a clutch performance by Corey Perry. And I know a lot of people aren't huge Corey Perry fans. He's a bit of a shit disturber, excuse my language, but
a menace.
He's a menace, yes. And, that's the type of game he plays. But he's a nice guy off the ice, and it's kind of like Kessler. Kessler's a kind of a nice guy off the ice, but he plays that, that disturber on the ice. That's just kind of the game that they play. And he's good at it. Kessler's good at it. Perry's good at it, and that's the kind of team they are. They will frustrate you. And, we saw it the other day when the comments came out between Johansson and Kessler. Kessler is trying to frustrate Johansson, and it's working. He's mentally taking him off his game. So.
I love it. When you get comments like that, you know that it's effective what you're doing.
Exactly.
And you're kind of getting the other player off his game a little bit, And when stuff transitions off the ice, that's when guys are really, really being bothered by certain things. They're really, really into it, and there's some hate brewing. And when there's hate brewing between the 2 clubs, that's when you're going to see the best hockey.
Exactly.
So I'm all for it.
All right, so this goes back to Anaheim for Game 5 tomorrow. Who wins this game?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think Anaheim, just because they're on a high right now after winning that, tying up the series. And I said in a previous video, Getzlaf and Perry are going to be 2 of the big keys to Anaheim's success. And their perseverance is the word you used. That's championship caliber stuff, what you're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just when you think they're down and out, man, they persevere, But Nashville's showing it too. They really are. I mean, they've had to come back in games too, and they prove they can do it. It's just back and forth. It's an amazing thing. It really is. So, I'm going to say Anaheim for the next game.
If we think about the big trophy, not the big trophy Stanley Cup, but the other one, Conn Smythe, I guess.
Yeah.
So who's in the running so far, do you think?
I've actually been asked this quite a few times, and I almost hate to talk about Conn Smythe runner-ups and that sort of thing until we get down to the final 2 teams, right? Because, we're going to lose 2 teams very shortly. Mm-hmm. And if you pick somebody from these teams, well, obviously they're not going to win it. It's between the 2 teams playing for the cup, right?
Right.
So, I could pick somebody on Nashville, let's say, and Anaheim could maybe eliminate them. So, I think right now Getzlaf has to have a bit of a nod because he has really, really upped his game. I don't want to sound biased, but I really think Marc-Andre Fleury should have consideration because, he did post 2 shutouts. The shutout in Game 7 against Washington when they needed him the most. He's been stellar these playoffs. Of course, minus last game just because of a few little things. I think he should have a nod for it as well. I would also pick Erik Karlsson from Ottawa.
Yeah, Karlsson has to be in the conversation.
He's been a beast. His ice time is just incredible. So he would be another one for me.
Yeah. What about Nashville?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That really is. It would definitely be somebody from the blue line because to me, one of the biggest reasons Nashville's having success is because of their blue line and their ability to create offense from the back end.
I think a lot of people would say Pekka Rinne, but I would say, you're right, on the blue line, Ryan Ellis. I think Ellis has had an amazing... He got 3 assists the other night.
Well, to be honest, there's so many, positive stars on the Nashville blue line. It's almost hard to pick one.
Yeah, there's Yossi, Subban, Ellis.
Yeah, they're all contributing just the way they need to in order to have success against Anaheim. And man, that Nashville blue line is lethal right now. And I mean, without them doing what they're doing, they wouldn't even be in this series.
Exactly.
But they are. So yeah, I'll agree with that. I'll say Elvis.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Let us know down in the comments below how you feel about the Pittsburgh series and the Pittsburgh versus Ottawa series and the Nashville versus Anaheim series. Let us know down below who do you think should win the Conn Smythe so far. We know obviously 2 teams are going to go bye soon and 2 teams are going to stay put. We're always curious to know how you guys feel. Who do you think is going to win the next game between Pittsburgh and Ottawa tonight, and then tomorrow? Nashville and Anaheim. Who's going to win those games? Let us know in the comments below. If this is your first video on Post to Post, we hope you hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one. Adios.